Hello everyone! So a few weeks ago I posted my first attempts at digital art, which, while fun, were really a challenge for me. One thing that I noticed that I had a particularly hard time drawing was, well, human faces, of course, but also the moon. I tried to draw the moon twice during the challenge, and each time it came out looking wrong. So I decided that the only way I was going to get better at it was by practicing, and what better way to do that than with another drawing challenge? For this challenge, I decided to draw the moon digitally every day for the entire month of January. I used Paint 3D again because I still haven't installed anything new. So for this challenge, I decided to draw the moon exactly as I saw it in the sky. This moon was a waning gibbous since the full moon was on December 3rd, and I also noticed that there was a ring around it, which I found out is caused by light reflecting off of ice crystals in the sky. I actually didn't expect myself to learn so much during this challenge, but it gave me a chance to do some research on a topic that I usually overlook. I don't think that this is the best picture here, but I'm cutting myself some slack because it's the first one and I was exhausted after staying up late for the new year. This was one of those days where you can still see the moon in the sky while it's still light out, so I thought that I would draw the moon like that, just for some variety, and because I think the blue, gray, and white color scheme is very pretty. Unfortunately, on this day it was too hazy to see the moon, but I looked out at the sky anyway, and oh boy was I surprised by what I saw. The first thing I saw was these columns of smoke going up from random places where there usually isn't smoke. My first thought was that maybe a lot of people had fires going in their fireplaces because it was a cold evening, but then I looked up at the horizon and I saw one column of smoke that was literally shaped like a skull. It looked exactly like the dark mark the Death Eaters in Harry Potter send up into the sky after they kill someone, so I guess there are Death Eaters in my neighborhood now. I really hope that they don't wipe my memory. Even though the moon was visible in the night sky on this night, I decided to draw the daytime moon again because I noticed that instead of looking a darker gray, the craters on the moon actually looked blue, like there were holes in the moon and the sky was showing through. I don't know why that is, but I wanted to try representing it in a drawing because I thought it was pretty cool. I couldn't see the moon at all on this day, so I thought I would experiment a bit by drawing the moon in a more cartoony way. And I regretted it almost immediately. Cartoony digital art and I don't get along, so that was pretty much the end of my experimentation. I stayed firmly in my comfort zone for the rest of the challenge. I couldn't see the moon again on this day, so I just kind of winged it. I decided to draw the picture in shades of purple, which is not very noticeable, but I thought it gave it a nice effect. Once again, I could not see the moon. The funny thing was my brother was also trying to observe and photograph the moon for a school project, and we were both so frustrated. So what I'm doing for these drawings is I'm making the shape of the moon with the circle tool, and then I'm using the crayon brush at 100% opacity to make the craters on the moon in a darker color. Then to create a sort of glow, I'm using the spray can tool at 2 to 5% opacity in a lighter color. Again, this is in Paint 3D, so I don't know how this translates to other drawing programs. At this point, I was starting to feel like the challenge was a little boring, so I tried to mix it up by drawing the moon with a green tint. So, since I still couldn't see the moon, I decided to draw it in colors that, while not necessarily realistic, looked pretty to me. This actually turned out to be one of my favorite drawings. I like the color scheme and also the clouds. Because I liked the clouds so much in the last one, I decided to do another drawing with clouds. I wanted to make it look like the moon was sort of shining through the layer of clouds. I don't know if it worked, but I tried. For this drawing, I wanted to give the picture a softer watercolor sort of look, so I challenged myself not to use any hard lines. This meant that I didn't use the shape tool or the fill bucket. I even used the spray can brush for the background. This isn't my favorite picture, but it looks pretty cool. For this one, I decided to put some random stars in the sky. I used the oil brush at 10 pixels for the stars. If you just sort of tap it, it makes little round shapes like this. I was so happy on this day because the moon was finally visible again. It was actually really beautiful because the entire moon was visible, at least at the time I looked at it, but only a tiny sliver on the side was illuminated. To make the crescent moon shape, I used the shape tool to make a white circle, then a black circle, which I used the fill bucket to make the same color as the sky. While I was doing it, I thought it looked kind of like a lunar eclipse. In this drawing, I wanted to show the illuminated part of the moon along with the dark part of the moon. I don't think I really paid much attention to it in the past, but I think it's pretty cool that sometimes you can see the whole moon in the sky. The illuminated part of the moon was really bright for some reason on this day, so I tried to show that in my drawing. I actually kind of like this picture, even though it looks sort of like the moon got snowed on. I like the way it sort of looks like it's glowing. This is not my favorite one, honestly. I think I probably should have emphasized the craters more because I feel like it looks a bit too flat. I I thought that this one looked fine too, but it wasn't particularly interesting in any way. Even if it doesn't look very realistic, I kind of like how the moon looks shiny and metallic here, like it's made of gold. For this picture, I tried to use the line tool instead of the circle tool. I didn't like this picture that much. Personally, I think the moon looks a bit like a lemon slice. For this picture, I decided to draw a moon, but with the colors reversed. I don't know what I was thinking. It looks really, really bad. It was really cold on this day, and my dogs were being very slow when I was walking them. They stood under a tree for about 15 minutes, or at least that's what it felt like. So I had lots of time to look at the moon. There was this sort of glowing ring around it and a few wispy clouds scattered in the sky. Today I couldn't see the moon because of cloud cover, and it was raining pretty hard, so I decided to try drawing the moon as it would appear from a window covered with rain. Of course, I couldn't actually see it, but it was fun anyway. For this picture, I wanted to show the dark part of the moon, so I drew the moon separately, then painted the sky with the watercolor brush and pasted the moon back on top of it. Finally, I filled in part of the moon with the watercolor brush, but I think I should have lowered the opacity on the brush because it didn't come out looking exactly the way I wanted. This one was more along the lines of what I was going for, but it still wasn't perfect. I tried using the spray can brush instead of the watercolor brush, but I think I prefer the watercolor. And I admit, I kind of cheated on this one. I used the same moon from the previous day because it was still on my clipboard. I actually really like the moon in this one. I thought that the light blue tint was very pretty. I wish I could have used it for the full moon, and in fact, I actually saved a picture of this with just the moon itself. Here's a tip for anyone using Paint 3D. What I didn't realize before I started this challenge is that if your cursor is still on the canvas and you can still see the little gray circle, it will be there when you save the image. I actually noticed this while editing, and it was kind of frustrating, so I will be definitely keeping this in mind in the future. I wanted to draw the moon in a bright blue, but I think I made it a little too bright. It looks more like electric blue, which is not really what I was going for, but I like it anyway. At this point, I was actually getting really confused by my pen. I think I've broken my pen, because the button on the side that shifts the canvas no longer works. I have to say I'm not terribly upset about that, because that button really annoys me. But also, the nib of the pen has been worn down. I don't know if that's normal. I know that I really abuse my traditional materials. I go through colored pencils like crazy, so maybe I'm just being too rough with it. As I was drawing this, I thought to myself, maybe I should put some clouds behind the moon to show depth. I had to think about that one for a while. I guess that's what happens when most of your brain space is devoted to worrying about your history final. Thank you everyone who stayed until the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that it wasn't too repetitive. I do plan to do more of these monthly challenges for things that I find difficult to draw. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Bye!